Oh my God. All right. Hold on. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, folks, here we go on this Monday. Senator Whitehouse under fire. Yep. You're going to want to hear this. We're also going to talk to Justin Katz. Folks, we have moved our radio segment now to video. You're going to love what we're going to do with this. So, yep. Too funny. Yes, JR says the connection is a righteous one and confirmed. Yes, it is. Hold on. How come I'm not saying? Yes, that's exactly right, JR. He's ready to go. Yep. Now, folks, the weather is terrific. We are live. Yes. Will you be out tonight for road patrol? What do you? No, we're only going to do it in the freezing cold. What do you think? Yes. Yes, of course. Are you going to be out tonight on road patrol? No, the good weather thing doesn't do it for me. I think we're going to just leave it when it's, single digits. No, we definitely are. Now, folks, big news. I can tell you right now that the light on Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is about to get a lot brighter. So those that are Sheldon fans, be prepared. Get ready. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Yep. Thank you very much. Yes, folks, we have transforming. Real News is now Real News with Juan DePedro, the chosen one, or we just say JD, either way. So, oh, wait a minute. I have to pay an Easy Pass thing? Is this junk still going on? All right. Let's see. We're going to be joined by Justin coming up. But I want to get into this this Fox News story, folks. He can't hide from this. I want to say that. He can't hide. You're not hiding from this one, Senator Whitehouse. Now, X is down. So we're not on X. I think that's just Elon Musk under attack. Facebook, we're solid. YouTube, it's totally solid. X is down. Instagram, thank you, by the way, Bendy. Instagram, cruising right now. What are we at on Instagram? 51,300. We'll be at 52,000 by the end of the week. Let's check Facebook, shall we? Folks, how about Facebook? We're at 86,000. We'll be at 87 this week. We're basically growing Facebook 1,000 new people a week. Facebook estimates we will hit 100,000 in June. All good to me. Folks, there's Lynn Miller. Folks, become a subscriber. Become a subscriber. We need to build, there's certain metrics I have to hit. Become a subscriber and shop in the shop. I got to post. It's Mug Monday. All right, let's wait for JR to give us the go ahead. We need, I have to. They give you, you have to hit certain parameters. All right, there we go, folks. At 106 on this Monday, and it is so pleasant. I love how JR said, welcome to daylight savings time, and it is. And, other than yesterday, all right, so you're thrown off a little bit. Holy cow, am I seeing this correctly? 57 degrees right now. Could hit 60 this afternoon, all sunshine. Sunset tonight, excuse me, it says 6:47. I interpret that. It's light past 7 o'clock. So we are, look at all sunshine, sunny in the 50s all week. Next Sunday, 62. This is great. All right. This portion of the real news. Now, we're the only ones that have the story on the gang war in Pawtucket in the bucket. Coming up, just a couple minutes, Justin Katz, managing editor, anchorrising.com, is going to join me for our segment Politics This Week. Folks, we're really going to expand our reach with the real news. You're going to love it. We're going to be talking to more people. We're going to have more guests. All of our platforms continue to just explode. You know why? Because at its core, people do want real news. That's what's really going to me. And what we offer, look at that. TikTok, 98,000 followers. We're going to hit 100,000 followers on TikTok. By the end of this week, we'll be at 100,000. And I put up the TikTok of Gabe Amo, Congressman Amo, on C-SPAN. Let me just check. What is it at right now? 108,000 views of Gabe Amo getting hammered, so to speak, on C-SPAN, but on DePetro.com, where you can go in the shop. Now, listen, you know what else? It's Mug Monday. What does that mean? And I will put this on the Facebook page. If every subscriber bought a mug, they're not expensive. You get a mug. It's like $15, something like that. I'm not sure of the price, right around there. It just helps us towards our goals. So we have great merchandise in the shop, whether it's for road patrol, whether it's Juan on Ice, get it? Or whatever, on the scene live stream, Juan After Dark. Purchase a mug. It's not like just hand over $15 and you just get a thank you. You get a mug and it's shipped right to your door. Visit DePetro.com. There's a quick link right on the website, DePetro.com, which is brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Hey, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. Boom, they're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. Now, also, I want to mention, as what a historic 100 days this is right now, folks, that we're living through. And I want to point out that the first 100 days of this administration and our coverage of it is brought to you by Propane Plus. Call Tim Johnson, the Johnson family you can depend on. 401-885-4209 in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Propane Plus, heating and cooling you can depend on Propane Plus. 401-885-4209 or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus. They also have a very user-friendly website. It's propaneplus.com. Can I squeeze in one more? I think so. Folks, just a reminder, if you're looking to do spring cleanup, who do I recommend? JD Lawn Care and Tree Service. Get some of those branches trimmed. JD Lawn Care and Tree Service. You can call them at 401-441-0154. Look for them on Facebook. JD, right? Lawn Care and Tree Service. They could do your spring cleanup. Now, before we talk to Justin Katz, managing editor of anchorrising.com, folks, and I'm very glad about this, what's happening. And we're going to talk about this with Justin, along with some other things that are going on in the state politically. But Fox News Channel put out a scathing story yesterday. Meet Sandra Whitehouse, whose husband votes funneled millions into her NGO that pays her. Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse has emerged on the spotlight. New ethics complaint. He votes in favor of laws that funded millions in grants to a nonprofit climate group that pays his wife's consulting firm. Who is Sandra Whitehouse? Well, first of all, she is at Bailey's Beach Club every day, Memorial Day to Labor Day. She's very involved with the all-white, very exclusive Bailey's Beach Club in Newport. No blacks allowed. Exclusive all-white club. Masters, blah, blah, blah. They married, blah, blah, blah. They go through the whole thing. But what this comes down to is, and I think this is, she started working with us Ocean Conservancy in September 2008. Senior policy advisor, consulting work. So no longer directly employed by them. Instead, she becomes a consultant. Now, she became president of Ocean Wonks. She consults for various nonprofit organizations. How noble. Now, what's the problem with that? They received 14 million in federal grants since 2008. Two sizable grants, 5 million last year and another one for 1.7 million. Now, she grabs, according to tax documents, they paid her a total of 2.5 million, 2.6, either directly or through her firm since 2010. So now there's an ethics complaint. Now, folks, should Senator Sheldon Whitehouse be voting on legislation that benefits Sandra Whitehouse? No. I want to tell you why and what's interesting to me about this scheme. And I don't hear anyone else talking about it, as a matter of fact. So, okay, let me just, no need to tell me. Just, you can do that. Folks, number one, what's should not be happening is, and we're going to talk about this with Justin, is our local media, they give him a free pass. They do. And even, for instance, we'll talk about it. I don't want to be redundant because we are going to talk about it with Justin. But here's what I want you to know. Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, he was U.S. attorney. He then became the attorney general. Why is that important? Because he knows the law inside and out. He knows the law. I'd be willing to bet that when he was U.S. attorney, that he stumbled into the scheme somehow. He may have prosecuted the scheme, because it is my contention that it is a scheme. Now, what they're trying to say, and this is really important you understand this, is they're trying to say, well, she's not an employee, but that's by design. It's by design. If she worked for this company and then they're getting millions in grants, well, then it's a direct link. But if she's just, quote, a consultant, I'll tell you what this really is. Sandra Whitehouse has a no-show job that they pay her close to $300,000 a year. Does she have to go into the office? No, she's not an employee. She's just a, quote, nonprofit consultant. So as a result of that, it doesn't have to be, did she work this day? How many hours? It's nothing like that. Listen, she doesn't work. It's this group, Ocean Conservancy. Here's the scheme that has been established. It's essentially a kickback. So they get 7.2 million, and they have to kick a certain percentage to Sandra Whitehouse. As a result of that, they get the money. So it's kind of like a finder's fee. The way around it is that she's a consultant. She's not an employee. If she were an employee, they would say, well, you can't have her company, Senator Whitehouse's company, receiving, this grant. If she worked for them, people would say she works for this company, and they just received 7 million, actually over the years, 14 million in grants. So the scheme is designed for what we call plausible deniability, which is they're able to get around it because she's a consultant. When this ethics complaint came out, one of the first stories that I saw on it was saying they misread it, and it was saying that she was an employee. Did the Providence Journal jump in on the story? No, they went wrong. She's not an employee. Wrong. She's a consultant. Notice they don't dig in. This is uncomfortable for the local media. It's uncomfortable because the local media, because elements of the story regarding Senator Whitehouse, they're not being broken locally. And I know many of you wouldn't understand this, but let me just explain. Let's use an example like Senator Elizabeth Warren. Senator Elizabeth Warren, any reporting on her the most aggressive, in-depth should come from Massachusetts media because they cover all the time, right? So whether it's the Boston Globe or the Boston Herald or some of the Boston TV stations, anything to do with Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, it really should come from the local because they cover her, day in, day out. There should be no news broken. And that's, by the way, that's the rule everywhere traditionally. It is. So no one, the New York Post, New York Times, no one should be beating them, breaking stories, reporting on anything to do with New York City. They're based there. They're the ones. A problem that I view that's happening right now is it's national media are breaking stories about Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Because I would argue, I think the local media they've just become too chummy with him. And if anything, the Journal started to go after a company saying that they had their reporting wrong. We're going to talk to Justin in just a moment. Folks, I want to remind you, Kids Club on the Pike, it's not too soon. They're already having people register your child for summer camp. Now, Kids Club on the Pike, they're right off of 295. They're on the Cranston-Johnson line on Plainfield Pike. They have great summer programs. Maybe you send your child there, and they have various locations for a week, or maybe for the entire summer. Kids Club on the Pike. Call Kristen, Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. Look for them on Facebook, Kids Club on the Pike. Well, folks, let's bring him on. He is the managing editor for anchorrising.com. And in our segment is Politics This Week. And it is the one and only Justin Katz. Good afternoon, Justin.
Good afternoon, John. Great to see you.
Thank you, Justin. Justin, let's start. I want to hear your thoughts. I sent you the Fox News story. Fox News, to me, they are really upping the game, other national outlets. But I want to hear your thoughts on this situation with Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse.
Well, I think it's, as I said last week, the local news should take it as newsworthy that somebody is getting attention. That this corruption, we've seen it here. We're kind of inured to it, and you can almost take that as an excuse for the local media not covering that much. But when a national news network takes this and runs with it, people are filing federal complaints. That should be a sign. This is a controversy. This is worth looking into. And we know from experience, if there were a national story that were putting a Republican in Rhode Island in a bad light, the local media would be all over it. Let's get the local angle. Let's get to it. Instead, we get, as I think you were just saying, we get this sort of coverage. Oh, this is old news. We've already covered this. This was dismissed when the Senate was controlled by Democrats. Don't worry about it. Move on. And I think that's really a disservice to the people of Rhode Island, because as you say, the local media should be covering it. We're the ones who vote this guy into office. That should be their main concern.
They should own it. And if you watch some of the Sunday shows, for instance, when there's someone running for president, whatever state they may be from, they'll have on the national Sunday shows or CNN. They'll have on a local beat reporter that carries them all the time. You don't see that. Justin, what do you think of? To me, this is a scheme by design. Senator Whitehouse, he knows the law. He was U.S. attorney. We know he was attorney general. He'd love to be on the Supreme Court. But to me, this is one of those situations where they feel, hey, if she's just a consultant, she's not an employee, no one would question and say, gee, I never see her car in the parking lot. Gee, she didn't work July and August. If she's just a consultant, she gets that money, they get the grants. I view it as they have come up with what they think is a scheme to get around what they would say is a direct conflict of interest, that he pushes legislation to get the grants that then essentially give his wife $300,000 a year for a no-show job.
Right, and I think that goes in line with a lot of what we're discovering with USAID and a lot of the work that Elon Musk and the Doge department are doing. Is they're finding these ways in which big government, and it's mostly Democrats, but I'm sure it goes both ways to some extent in Washington. They're finding all these ways that they sort of cycle this money around, and what's fascinating about it is you can almost see the excuse, right? Well, they're both interested in the environment. He's a senator. She works for nonprofits. They're all advancing the cause. And so it's only natural there'd be overlap. but it really is beginning to feel and look corrupt. I mean, one thing, if the local media wants to get involved, they could look into, all right, she got something like 2 point something million over the last decade via her this system of federal grants going to her NGO that she's a consultant for. What work did she do? If there's nothing to it, right? There ought to be a big log of they were supposed to do some, I think, ocean cleanup or something. Okay, where are the records of that? Kathy Gregg from the Providence Journal, go look into that. If there's nothing about it, then why not just pick up the covers and look a little bit, right? And I'm sure they're all friends, so she could just call up Sandy Whitehouse and say, hey, send those records over. That, I think, is what we're really fascinating thing is we're starting to get a look at this, and it unearths this incestuous corruption where they've made it legal to be corrupt in essence.
Also, Justin, I think what also comes into play with the local media is, for instance, to an outsider, if someone explained to an outsider that just the Senate leadership, Ruggiero, member of the laborers, the number 2 person in the Rhode Island Senate, Val Lawson, she runs one of the teachers unions. I think one of the problems is that type of it's absolutely a conflict of interest. To an outsider, you'd say those people can't be voting on this legislation, but it starts to become acceptable because it's acceptable at the State House. They then view oh, well, then it's also acceptable that Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is doing it.
Right. And that was, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, the Ethics Commission gave the green flag for all of that. Well, it's if they can vote for their union because it affects everybody in a union equally, and there's all they've got that. They've given themselves that sort of imprimatur, and it's all over the place. We saw this recently with Judge McConnell, the one who went up against the Trump administration. Yes. His daughter working for the Department of Education, which was on a chopping block. He's on the board of the nonprofit Crossroads, which gets federal money. All these things around here, it's almost like they just laugh it off. But as you say, you explain this to any outsider, and they say this is outrageous corruption, and we've incorporated corruption into our state government. It's sort of like the business of the state, the corruption that cycles all this money around.
I think the Senator Sheldon Whitehouse story, Justin, I think that's something to watch. The fact that Fox is starting to lean into it, I think a problem for him is what has then just become acceptable to him because the locals don't raise an eyebrow or do a lot on it. I think then he starts to get a false sense of security that it is okay when it clearly is not okay. And as I said, I really believe with his legal background, they came up with, if she's a consultant, it's okay, but it'd be a problem if she were employee. Now, Justin, Governor McKee did an interview on Channel 10, and I mean, I find it uncomfortable at this point. By the way, also look at last week, the launch. It's talk about flat. He has nothing on his calendar today, but he basically told Brian Crandall that the CEO of Hasbro is not responding to him. And this is the same week that Hasbro has announced they're going to come out with a Boston version of Monopoly, and they're going to incorporate and localize it to have certain landmarks in the city of Boston part of this Monopoly game. What does it tell you that the CEO of Hasbro is not even responding to Governor McKee trying to communicate to him?
Well, there's nothing there. I mean, we talked recently about McKee insulting Hasbro, that bitterness. It's all a promise to kind of buy the company in for some additional corruption so they'll get something out of it. The state government says, here, we put all our cards on the table. We've given you as much as we possibly can. But, I was thinking about it, and honestly, if I were Hasbro, I wouldn't trust these promises from the state. I mean, they're hanging on by a thread with federal money. Whoever's in office can change things. You have to go back every year and every election and beg for additional handouts if you accept being part of that insider group. And I think Hasbro is probably sick of it. And frankly, if they're transitioning from toys into more of a technology thing, they want to be where they can find employees, where there's that everybody's hanging out at the same coffee bars and all that overlap of influence and research. And I think that's something to really look into. Providence does not have that. And, it's like we're in a downward spiral at this point. I mean, if Hasbro leaves, They bring their talent with them. It's one major company that local colleges can't use for internships or to refer their students. So there won't be as much attraction to those colleges. They've got less influence, which means other companies will have less reason to be here. I think we really need to get to the core changes in state government. And I think that's where everybody has kind of just figured that out at this point. And so Hasbro's saying, you know what, we're not going to play your game. We're probably just leaving. And McKee can't get any traction because why would he get any traction? He's got nothing to offer.
Folks, again, our segment is politics this week. We're listening to and you're seeing Justin Katz, managing editor, anchorrising.com. Justin, I also want to throw in, I think it's one of those things that just starts to become acceptable. And it's not something that's highlighted in the press every day. But let's remember that Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, back in the fall, was just cleared in an FBI investigation. Right now, the Washington Bridge is still under an FBI investigation. I think it's one of those things. I noticed that with no other reporting or coverage on Hasbro, no one stops to think, can you imagine you're running a company and the person that you are communicating with is under an FBI investigation? I know, I don't know if you do, but anyone that's watching this season episode of HBO White Lotus, one of the characters is basically hiding in Thailand with his family because the FBI has swarmed his office and the guy is, having a complete meltdown. My point is, I think it almost becomes acceptable to some of the locals, like, all right, so he's under an FBI investigation. But if you're an outsider, it's very possible that the CEO of Hasbro was like, I don't want to deal with someone that's under an FBI investigation. For all I know, I could get dragged in on it in some way.
Right. Well, and I think it's so indicative of the reasons they would want to leave in the first place. I mean, he's been investigated for the insider kind of playing, contracts going around. The bridge is an
Yes.
instance of the state not taking care of itself, and it starts this whole lawsuit in order to cover itself, so it doesn't have to have any internal accountability. Trying to put the blame on private sector businesses for everything. When you see that, and then it results in investigations, that's really a major drawback to a large employer, and small employers for that matter, who want to become large. That Rhode Island is a place where you don't want to do business. I mean, we used to talk about how if you started to be successful in any kind of unionized area, a business like that,
Yeah.
you'd get that knock on the door from Pat Crowley
Right.
or George Nee or whoever and say, hey, it's great that your company's advancing. Now you got to cut us in. That is now so much part of the culture, right in through our government. It's shot through the whole system. The better bet is just not to be here. And we've gotten away for 20 years with living off of federal windfalls from the Obama administration and the Biden administration, and now that's evaporating. So there is nothing for a Hasbro or other company to look for, especially when you've got to deal with unsavory, corrupt people who are going to insult you when they go on television. I think that's a lot of what they're looking at.
Justin, with the Senate President Ruggiero, he once again is basically missing the session. The Senate only apparently goes up there once a week, but no one is, to me, here's my question. Do you think should the Republican Party make more of an issue that Senate President Dominic Ruggiero, he can't do the job? It's not like he fell in his driveway and he's recovering. He looks terrible. He's seriously battling cancer. I don't wish him ill will, but part of being an elected leader is you're supposed to be able to carry out your duties. We just saw this with, President Biden, where they hid for him. But do you think, I think at this point, people need to, I believe, step up and say, listen, nothing against the guy, but he simply can't do the job. He's in the hospital all the time. He's not up there. Like, I just, at this point, this is the second year in a row. Any thought on that?
Well, I think it shows how the Democrats all fall in line. I mean, you mentioned the Republicans ought to make a big deal out of it, but that's what you really need competitive legislature, competitive politics for. If the balance of the state Senate were in question, if there were any chance that some controversy or something from Ruggiero could flip things to Republicans, the Democrats would be taking care of this. They have no incentive to do it, and frankly, at the end of the day, it really confirms that they're not really running the show. The power masters, mainly in the unions, are running the show behind them, and it starts to put a new light on the treatment that Ryan Pearson got when he started to make kind of hints that maybe Ruggiero could passed the baton to him and he got kind of boxed out. I think that's what we saw last year, and that message has been received. But there's no incentive within the state legislature to do that. And if you sit back and think of how it really, this gets me every 5 years or so, it comes to mind how horribly out of sync we are with the way our government's supposed to work. Each of us elects our state reps and our state senators. They go there, they elect a leader who's supposed to be just kind of controlling the House while we are still represented, but instead they become the king of that chamber and two of the three most powerful people in the state. And that's what we're seeing here is the king doesn't want to back out, or his backers don't want to let him go, and there's nobody who's willing to kind of nudge him, and we get no truth in the matter, no representation. And that's exactly what Ruggiero is proving at this point.
Yeah, I think it's reminiscent of the big scene in The Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. I mean, that's what we're really seeing play out. Now, Justin, also, you and I talked about, and I commended them, that the Rhode Island GOP has announced, I believe we talked about it, that they're not going to attend the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce. They do a luncheon. And the Rhode Island GOP leader, Mike Chippendale, and also Brian Newberry, they issued a statement saying it's a dog and pony show. They were actually not supporting business. We're not going to be part of it. However, then when they release the list of speakers, first of all, Ruggiero is not attending. He's in the hospital. But someone who is going to speak at it is Senate Minority Leader Jessica De La Cruz. So my question is, do you think she should go along and show unity with the House? What does it say if Rep. Chippendale, Newberry, the Republicans in the House is saying, we're not going. It's a waste of time. These people are just, the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce is anything but. They don't have small business. They both basically go for crumbs. They're enablers of the leadership. Do you think her attending, I think it hurts the GOP message?
Well, I think on its face it does. If she doesn't say anything or do anything, it does create an opportunity where she could go and make a statement, maybe try to get some coverage to say, look, this is, I love what the House Republicans said. They called it an incestuous group of top-level executives whose goal is not to offend the Democrat leadership. And I think that's exactly right. And if she could reinforce that, De La Cruz could, if she's there, she could make some kind of statement of why she thinks it's worth attending. We could have some dialogue here. But if she's just going through the motions, it is harmful. And I think it does reinforce the kind of continuing insider status of these, where they basically, the government sets up these organizations where the leadership of the chamber is, in my view, there by the blessing of the state politics, the state Democrat leaders, and sort of represents them to the quote business community. And they're not representative of small businesses and the economy in any way I've seen over the past 10, 15 years. And so I think that these are important messages to send, whether the GOP has to be completely unified in tolerating the group or not. I don't know. I think some tension is good, but they don't seem to have a coherent message. And I think we've seen this with any number of issues: immigration, mail ballots. There are all these issues they could focus in on and really get Rhode Islanders to wake up a little bit. So this could be an opportunity for that, but I get the feeling it's not going to be.
I don't know her well. I just have found, and I know that a lot of people highly regard her. I think just in certain aspects, she is politically tone deaf. And I'll provide two examples. She was recently on Newsmakers. They said, if you could be kind of like wave a magic wand. She was on Newsmakers, by the way, with Rep. Chippendale. So there was unity there. They say, we're not going to this thing. It's a waste of time. But she's still going to be a speaker. I don't think it's in her to get up and say this whole thing is a sham. I don't see her like that. But on Newsmakers, they said the question was, if you could wave a magic wand, what legislation would you change? And she said an inspector general, which, I mean, to me, that doesn't resonate with people. There's a lot of other things that are wrong up there that you could say. The other thing was, and I've talked about this in the past, she was a guest on Channel 12 right after the Sabina Matos signature scandal broke. And Ted Nesi said to her, does this shake your confidence that Rhode Island has integrity as far as our voting system? And she said, no, I think we do have integrity with our voting system. My point is, that could have been a perfect time to say, this absolutely shakes my confidence in our voting system, we need to change it. But to me, it doesn't make her a bad person. She just sometimes doesn't see, to me, the opportunity that's in front of her, and how you have to take the most of some of these opportunities. Now, Justin, Helena Folks, who's still out there, going to be running, she put this out on X. Now, I was surprised to see her on X because she said she was leaving for Blue Sky. But be that as it may, Helena Bonanno Folks, thank you, Judge McConnell. This was to defend Jack McConnell, who, by the way, the Trump people are going to go after him now and try to overturn that. Thank you, Judge McConnell, for your ruling which upholds our federal laws. Trump and Elon Musk funding freeze has created confusion and fear. We're counting on those funds approved by Congress for healthcare, clean energy, rebuilding our Washington Bridge. Now, the first thing that jumps out at me is she won't use the phrase, won't use title. She won't even call him President Trump. But Justin, what does that tell you, that she put something like that out there on social media? And she's not out on social media a lot.
Well, it goes back to the people our state politicians really serve are those in state government, in the unions and the special interests that sort of feed off the government satellites. And that's who she's talking to. And it is a weak statement. And it shows me that with her in charge, we really wouldn't pick up any additional representation. She might know a little bit better how to run business. That was kind of her talking point, although a lot of people would sneer at the idea of CVS and how they've been handling drugs. But it shows that she's not really an alternative to McKee. She's just more of the same. And I think any chance that she would pick up, I know when Raimondo came on the scene running for treasurer in government, there were people on kind of our side saying she's going to be a positive change. I don't see Helena Folks getting much of that because she's been such a across the board kind of progressive Democrat.
And on top of that, this is new now, folks. President Trump's administration has appealed the Rhode Island federal judge decision to continue blocking the executive from freezing Congress. Justin, I agree with you. I view Helena Folks, she's definitely running, but I don't think she realizes the terrain has shifted. If she thinks she's just, I just find right now she's not even in sync with the Democrat Party. Bernie Sanders has become the de facto voice of the Democrat Party. You have the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, suddenly now angering people because he's saying, it is an unfair advantage that boys are playing girls' sports. I view her as, if she's going to take that approach, you're not going to get any Republicans. You're not going to get, certainly, I don't think you're going to get independents, is what I'm trying to say. You're certainly not going to get Republicans, but to just come out with the tone deaf knee jerk, and I get that, Judge McConnell lives on the east side. She lives on the east side. I get that they're, friendly and so forth, but I just found she's just joining a chorus right now of people that have a terror. Her chorus is the same chorus that would not stand at the State of the Union and were wearing pink and the rest of that stuff. And also, it can't be lost. Her political hero is Nancy Pelosi. Pelosi came in for a fundraiser, blah, blah, blah. Folks, it's time for Katz's Corner. And this is a story that Justin has picked up on. And Justin, what's the story you have for us this week?
Well, I wanted to put a highlight on something that kind of went under the radar a bit in Rhode Island. Representative Karen Alzadi has put in legislation that would force certain companies or organizations, churches, hospitals, libraries, to block ICE at the door unless they have a warrant, a court-issued warrant to come in and round up illegals. And I think whatever people's opinion on this particular issue, this is the sort of legislation that really gets under my skin because it imposes her ideology on the rights of companies, of organizations. If some church is having a problem and wants ICE to come in and is fine with it for whatever reason, they're not allowed to do that under legislation like this. And I see all this kind of legislation all the time where in the name of their good feeling talking points, they restrict our rights and are in no way representing the people of Rhode Island. And so I think for that, I wanted to label Karen Alzadi just too dangerous to be a legislator.
Folks, again, our segment Politics this week. He is Justin Katz, managing editor at anchorrising.com. Justin, excellent, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, John. Talk to you soon.
All right, folks, there it is. Now, that had been a radio segment, and we have now had it, join us now as far as our video component, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of that. The Sheldon White House, I want to talk about that. And then there's something else really significant that is happening right now. But folks, I want to stay on schedule on this, what is again a nice sunny Monday this week. Should just be terrific. This portion of our program, and it's brought to you by, remember that if you're thinking of doing some kind of an expansion on your home or business, Arch Design Builders. Arch Design Builders. Give them a call, 401 207 4124. On this sunny Monday, maybe now you're thinking, we'd like to do an in law apartment. Maybe you'd like to rehab your home or business. What I'm inviting you to do is pick up the phone, and it starts with a phone call and a conversation with Ed and Roxanne, Arch Design Builders. Give them a call today. And again, maybe it is your kitchen, maybe it's a bathroom, maybe it's a special project, but call them, free estimate, show them the space. Maybe you want to say, this is our garage, and we want to have it as a living space. This is our basement. We want to use it as a living space. This is my office. What can you do to make it, what have you? Arch Design Builders. Maybe you want to add on a deck. Redo the bedrooms. Arch Design Builders. You're going to notice the arch difference. And again, especially you're dealing with Ed and Roxanne. Call today. Set up that free estimate. It's a free conversation, what it is. Let Ed and Roxanne come into the space, and let them dream. They have tremendous experience, impeccable reputation, impeccable credentials. Arch Design Builders, 401 218 9707. Well, folks, good afternoon again on this sunny Monday. Wow, the weather is terrific. Now, we are going to be active, as you can imagine, with Road Patrol Live. We'll be out tonight. I was starting to mention we were the only ones that were there in Pawtucket Friday night. For those of you that watch Road Patrol, so Friday night, and by the way, I believe, I'm not mistaken, we're still the only ones that have reported on that. That was not late, 7 o'clock, gunplay right there in Pawtucket on Randall, and all the commotion, and then he was driven to Miriam Hospital, and that caused havoc over there. The hospital went on lockdown. For those of you that saw it, because we were the only media live, there were gang members showing up there. Saturday night, the two Pawtucket gangs shooting at each other on the highway. Folks, we have, whether people want to admit it or not, we have a gang problem, we have a violence problem, and there are various people that feel, it's in their best interest and everyone else's best interest not to report on it. I don't subscribe to that. I think you need to know that. If you have two gangs from Pawtucket, now keep in mind, there's friction there's a gang in Central Falls fighting with one or both of the Pawtucket gangs, Bucket East, Bucket West. And then you also have East Side, which is along Camp Street, off of North Main Street, up and around there. That's what they call East Side. They're constantly fighting back and forth with Bucket East or Bucket West. I can't keep a track. But my point is, Saturday night, we were the only ones. And those of you that watched it, I don't know, isn't that newsworthy? There's 12 Rhode Island State Police cars, 12 on 95 as they're trying to locate the shell casings because the two gangs are firing back and forth at each other. To me, that's news. To me, that's something you should know. I am telling you right now, it is a matter of time. Actually, it's not a matter of time. You saw last summer, you had, the altercation off Manton Avenue, which we were there last night. And the guy that, ramming his car into the other two, they jump out. He runs into them. They fire, and they kill the 7-year-old, his 7-year-old daughter, in the back seat. It is a matter of time. Do you realize the damage that could get done if someone is shot and killed, or just shot while they're driving on 95? and then they take out several other cars. We were at, think of just, it was just back in last month. We were in Washington Park where that car got shot up. It's the shooting and the nature of then what can happen with the driver who then can't control the vehicle. It is a matter of time. We're going to have a full-scale incident here. And we have a governor who's asleep at the switch. Excuse me. Just asleep at the switch. McKee should not be in that job. It's too much for him. Dan McGowan of the Boston Globe, there was a great piece that he wrote that you're talking about a coach that wants a contract extension. He's not, he's drowning in the job. They're not getting the bridge money. It's pretty clear. Governor McKee, you're under a federal investigation. Here's what we know about Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee. He's still withholding documents. It's a federal investigation. He just overcame another FBI investigation. And he's demanding $500 million from the Trump administration. I'm just telling you right now, it's not happening. No one's been fired at DOT. No one's been demoted at DOT. No one has made a penny less at DOT. If anything, they keep getting raises. There's no accountability. I ask you, if you were the Trump administration, and here's Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, who blew off the inauguration, who doesn't even have it in him to go up and approach the transportation secretary when all the governors went to the White House, who steps forward, Governor McKee, who's always bashing President Trump, and I'm going to protect Rhode Islanders from this MAGA agenda, always bashing. Just put yourself in the place of the Trump administration. He just was apparently cleared an FBI investigation in the fall, even though it basically came out, or Attorney General Peter Nerona said that we could have charged him. He totally interfered with the process, with the rigged bid and the contract. He's currently under a federal investigation when it comes to the bridge. He's withholding documents. He bashes you at every turn. His lieutenant governor, handpicked, bashes them at every turn. He blows off the inauguration. Would you give that guy $500 million? I mean, you wouldn't give him $5, let alone $500 million. Then you have Gabe Amo, Congressman Amo, Congressman Magaziner, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. They think their full-time job is just bashing the administration. Folks, they are so poorly representing Rhode Island. And Massachusetts, by the way. But Mass is just in a different category because of Boston. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Modern Mechanical. Whether it's for your heating system or your cooling system, Modern Mechanical. They can central air conditioning installation. They can do central air conditioning repair and maintenance. They can do ductless air conditioning installation, ductless air conditioning repair and maintenance, boiler repair and maintenance, furnace repair and maintenance, heater repair and maintenance. Modern Mechanical. Call Richard, 401-441-5442. They're right on Jefferson Boulevard. Modern Mechanical. I share their Facebook page. You want everything I just mentioned working as efficiently as possible. 401-441-5442 for Modern Mechanical. Well, folks, good afternoon. Will we be active with Road Patrol? Yes, of course, we're going to be active later. So this is, I don't know what to make of the fact that X has been down most of the day. All right, let me see this is some current news. I think X is now restored. Ed Fitzpatrick, this afternoon, Governor McKee will join fellow governors in New York City. Oh, he's going to New York for a National Governor Association meeting on education improving outcomes strengthened. He'll return to Rhode Island tomorrow night. So the governor's having a little New York City excursion. Trump administration appeals spending freeze injunction issued by Rhode Island judge. Let me just also see. That's I know that a number of individuals with EBT cards had problems over the course of the weekend. this comes back to, oh my God, he just won't stop. All right, I'm going to post this. Senator Sheldon, White House, as we struggle with this tramponian assault on America, there's a way home, and there's a broad public agreement on its elements. Whatever the immediate issues and outrages, we must persistently, relentlessly pursue the pathway home. Does anyone have any idea what he's talking about? Congressman Amo continues his tour of ripping the Trump administration. There's Seth Magaziner on X. You know, X is still not 100%. I'm not sure what to make of other than what I just said to Justin Katz, and that is, for some reason, our Rhode Island Washington delegation, they believe that their job is to just try to block the Trump administration at every turn. Folks, you know what also was fitting is, like many of you, I mean, I grew up, my family, reading the Providence Journal. We were a 2-a-day family as far as the paper. You'd get the Providence Journal in the morning delivered. You'd wake up and have the paper. And then in the afternoon, I never did it full time, but I used to fill in and help kids that had the evening bulletin. They'd give it out. The Providence Journal is no longer even printing in Rhode Island. And what I found so kind of appropriate is they wouldn't even let local media go to their printing press, which is behind Providence Place Mall, to film like the final run of the paper. For years, I used to argue with the management at the Providence Journal in order to get some of their various reporters or even columnists to come on the radio with me, and they never would let them. And they just never understood self-promotion. If you watch any of the morning television, especially whether it's Fox and Friends or especially Morning Joe, CNN, they all of those shows are newspaper writers as guests and so forth. Not so much Fox and Friends, but the Journal would never allow that. They would never allow that. I would be over there. And I went to meetings with the editor. They just would not allow their reporters to be on. I never understood that. But the Providence Journal, to me now, it's really bordering on just completely irrelevant. And I'm not trying to, there are still some nice people that work over there, but it is beyond, you know, when Cianci used to, rest in peace, used to call it the pamphlet. It's just a shell of what it once was. But they, as Justin Katz just said, they've now become, they just try to take shots at other media. Oh, that story's incorrect. Why don't you dig in a little bit on Senator Whitehouse? Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call Corey today. Free quote, 401-283-9815. Now, what do? Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. They seal coat driveways and parking lots. They offer crack filling, pothole repair, and line striping. They can make your pavement look like new. Keep your parking lot safe, fix potholes, cracks, make sure your lines are bright, direct traffic safely. They also do, and now with the weather, we can start to imagine it, sport court resurfacing, pickleball, tennis, basketball. They epoxy garages and patios, decorative concrete flooring. Call Corey. Free estimate, Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. I share their Facebook page, 401-283-9815, 401-283-9815, Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Now, also, this portion of our program, someone asked me, as a matter of fact, Jan sent me an email. Jan said she needs a plumber. Said, I love listening to your program. Who is that plumber that you recommended? Jan call JMB Plumbing, the dream team, Jimmy and Tommy. JMB Plumbing, plumbing repair and service, 401-743-9153. They can repair damaged water pipes. They can repair clogged pipelines. They can replace a water heater. JMB Plumbing, 401-743-9153. Well, folks, again, good afternoon. This is the real news. Like many of you, I mean, I'm pretty excited about the weather. This is tremendous. I think this has been a rough winter. The weather this week is going to be terrific. And most importantly, this is good Road Patrol Live weather. I'm looking at the Journal right now. I mean, what are their stories? Olivia Culpo, happy for her, pregnant, expecting first child. That's great. She looks pretty far along. I saw the photo. I'm guessing she's 7 or 8 months. Other than that, Hendricken beats Prout for the boys' state hockey title. Wow, I didn't know that. Prout must have a good team. Wow, I didn't see that headline coming. Hendricken beats Prout for the hockey state title in 3 overtimes? Wow, Prout must have some serious players then. I had no idea. The Journal, they do carry high school sports. The winter high school championship season is here. Boys hockey, Frank Tillinghast lifted number 1 Hendricken. Second rate Prout. I had no idea Prout had such a strong team. Let's see. Jack Kiernan is no fan of overtime. The East Greenwich Tollgate forward poked into the game winner 35 seconds in the extra period against Portsmouth. So I want to just see what else LaSalle girl ended hockey title drought. Who went back? Moses Brown knocking down 3-pointers. Used his defense. They claimed the crown. Huh. And 3-pointer, blah, blah, blah. Game winner over West Warwick. What division is that? Narragansett, first championship. They toppled East Providence, Division II girls. LaSalle may have played the game they wanted to, but they were hard. Hendricken dictated tempo. And so LaSalle beat Hendricken 45-41. And North Kingstown scored blah, blah, blah. All right. But that's really what the Journal is now. And I'm not knocking it. Hendricken wins the swim title. LaSalle wins boys indoor track. But that's really what the Journal has turned into. And that is just high school sports. All right. Listen, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. If you're watching on Facebook, we will be doing Road Patrol Live later on this Monday. Visit the website. Purchase a mug. It's Mug Monday in our online store. Good afternoon to everybody also on YouTube as we continue to build our presence there. So listen, thank you to Justin Katz. We'll be back on the radio tomorrow at 11. We're back here live, the real news at 1. Stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. We'll see you later on Road Patrol Live.